We will come to you for more updates. Now, this has been called Europe's darkest hour since the Second World War. In fact, when war broke out, envoys were actually trying to talk peace. An emergency Security Council meeting was underway at the United Nations. And in the middle of it, ambassadors began receiving videos of the attack on their phones. Here's what happened next.
At the exact time as we are gathered in the Council seeking peace, Putin delivered a message of war in total disdain for the responsibility of this Council. This is a grave emergency.
As we sat in this chamber urging Russia to step back, President Putin announced special military operations on Ukrainian territory.
The Russian ambassador was on the president's chair. His Ukrainian counterpart openly challenged him. Call Putin, stop the war, or step down, he said.
Well, as I said, relinquish your duties as a chair. Call Putin, call Lavrov to stop aggression. And I welcome the decision of some members of this council to meet as soon as possible to consider the necessary decision that would condemn the aggression that you launch on my people. There is no purgatory for war criminals. They go straight to hell, Ambassador.
It was just a little over 9:30 a.m. in India, around 11 p.m. in Washington, D.C., and just about dawn in Europe. The world reacted in absolute shock. U.S. President Joe Biden denounced the attack. He said the world will hold Russia accountable. From New York, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres sent a message to Putin. Stop the war in the name of humanity, he said.
President Putin, in the name of humanity, bring your troops back to Russia. In the name of humanity, do not allow to start in Europe what could be the worst war since the beginning of the century.
When explosions became more frequent and videos of airstrikes began circulating on social media, the reactions from world leaders took a more punishing tone. South Korea, for example, said it would join the West in slapping sanctions on Russia. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison said Putin will face the consequences of his actions.
This cannot be a consequence-free action by Vladimir Putin and the Russian regime. And it should send a message to any other regime out in the world that if you go down this path, if you seek to coerce and bully others, then the world should stand together in targeting those who are directly at the centre of these activities. And this is incredibly important.
Canada took a similar line. It said Russia's reckless and dangerous acts will not go unpunished. The Czech Republic said Russia was trampling the principles of European security. Ukraine's neighbour Poland had a message for the people of Russia. Do not support your government in this war, they said. Soon, NATO held an emergency meeting. It said Russia had shattered Europe's peace. NATO Secretary General said the alliance will be boosting its defences in allied territory, putting ships and airplanes on alert and deploying more troops to Eastern Europe.
Russia is using force to try to rewrite history and deny Ukraine its free and independent path. NATO's core task is to protect and defend all allies. There must be no room for miscalculation or misunderstanding. An attack on one will be regarded as an attack on all. This is our collective security guarantee.
Romania called the Russian attack unjustified. Greece said the attack violates the values of sovereignty and independence. Israel, too, put its weight behind Ukraine. It called the Russian attack a grave breach of international order. And Turkey said it supports Ukraine's battle for territorial integrity.
Rusya'nın bugün erken saatlerde Ukrayna topraklarına başlattı.
I would like to begin by saying that we find the military operation Russia launched on the Ukrainian territory in the early hours unacceptable, and we reject it. This step, which we view as against international law, is a heavy blow struck on regional peace, harmony and stability.
Ve istikrarına vurulmuş ağır bir darbedir.
Protests have broken out around the world. The visuals on your screen are from Berlin, where people are asking their government to act immediately, provide military aid to Ukraine and unite against what they call a new Hitler. And British Prime Minister Boris Johnson spoke earlier this evening. He promised massive sanctions against Russia. French President Emmanuel Macron said Russia's actions will have long-lasting consequences for Europe.
We cannot and will not just look away. Our mission is clear. Diplomatically, politically, economically, and eventually militarily, this hideous and barbaric venture of Vladimir Putin must end in failure.
Nous avions anticipé ensemble cette crise.
By renouncing on his word, by refusing the diplomatic path, by choosing war, President Vladimir Putin has not only attacked Ukraine, he has also decided to trample the sovereignty of Ukraine.
Et nous sommes prêts. En reniant sa parole,
we will respond to this act of war without weakness, with calm, determination and unity.
pas seulement attaquer l'Ukraine.
Not all countries, though, are siding with Ukraine. Some have chosen to stand with Russia. Iran is one of them. Here's what Iran's foreign minister wrote on Twitter. The war in Ukraine is caused by NATO's provocative actions. The president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, says Ukraine invited the war, and he tried to explain how.
All these facts that are hidden from media, I'm highlighting them. Say that Ukraine might have wanted this conflict. They did not do anything to prevent it. They were constantly escalating even after the recognition of these republics.
Lukashenko presented no evidence to back his claim, though. What about China? Where does China stand? Well, currently on two boats. Ukraine has been attacked, people have died, but China says this is not an invasion. Here's what a Chinese foreign ministry spokesperson told a reporter earlier today.
You are using a typical Western media questioning method of using the word invasion. China is closely monitoring the latest situation. We call on all sides to exercise restraint to prevent the situation from getting out of control.
Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan is in Russia, but he has not said a word on the war. When he arrived in Russia some 24 hours ago, he called the situation, quote-unquote, exciting. All in all, the world is divided. Either a country is with Ukraine or with Russia. India so far has taken a very neutral stand on this conflict. Speaking a couple of minutes ago, India's Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla said that New Delhi's topmost priority remains the safety and security of Indians.
You have all seen the sudden and serious developments in Ukraine today. As we speak, there is a meeting of the Cabinet Committee on Security, chaired by the Prime Minister in session, to take stock of this situation. Prime Minister has conveyed at the CCS meeting that the topmost priority of the government is the safety and security of Indian nationals, including Indian students, and their evacuation from Ukraine.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.